Welcome to Money Matters TV. My name is Paul Mitchell. I'm your host for this show. I'm a commercial banker and loan officer. Joining me on the show is James Chan, co-host. James, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
James, you have your own company, Asia Marketing, and that's your own company, and you are the company.
Yes, I am the company.
So you've been self-employed for a few years, I understand.
Well, I started in 1983. I used to, like many people, work at big companies.
Okay.
And somehow things happened. And I decided that, well, I was not really a very good soldier. No. By that, I mean, I could work for big organizations, but I somehow didn't feel that things were right with me. There was, when I was a dutiful, hardworking, good employee,
yes,
I found that something was missing. I don't know what it was, freedom, autonomy.
Well, a lot of people feel that way, but how much time did you give it a shot to work for the big company, to gain the experience, to learn about stuff before you could say, well, if I am going to go out on my own, I have the experience, I have some expertise, I've been tested in the marketplace. How long a time does that take?
Now, I just want to make sure that I understand your question completely. You're saying that is it important to work for a big company first as an employee before one becomes self-employed? Is that
I guess I'm kind
part
of saying
of
that.
your question?
I guess I'm saying
and
that.
Also, how long should a person be working for a big organization or big institution?
Both in terms of gaining knowledge and also
right.
gaining knowledge of yourself in terms
yeah.
of this is not for me, I should be doing something else.
First of all, I'm so happy you asked those aspects of the same question. They are both are critical. I don't believe that I would have had the luck and the ability to have a successful self-employment over the past more than 3 decades if I had not worked at a big company first. I worked there for 2 years.
Yes.
And I saw an opportunity and I decided to, as people say, jump ship. And so I can't tell you whether it should be 2 years or 5 years or 6 years. I think to be concise, I always tell younger people
yes,
they should work for companies before they become self-employed.
Right.
And as to how long they should stay with the company, it really depends on the appearance of the opportunity.
But on the other hand, your particular self-employment situation, and you can tell us a little bit what that is in a moment,
Right.
but that certainly played into giving you the experience. That is, you didn't gain all the experience for what you do as a self-employed person just from the big company. You had other resources that you brought to the table.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I never learned any skills related to how to be a successful self-employed person from the big firm, from the company I work at as a junior manager. However, when I was with the big company in New York City, a Fortune 500 publishing company, at least I learned how an industry works. I learned how to export. I helped my companies get checks from China, from various Asian countries, and I actually saw those checks with my eyes, so they were real money. And those checks gave me the confidence, gave me confirmation that I could do it. And I really think that is extremely important.
And what have you been doing for the last 35 years then that you start out after these checks?
Well, I got these checks, and my employer decided to relocate out of New York City to go to Florida, Orlando to be specific. And the chairman of the company fired 75% of all of the employees in New York, keeping only 25%. I was already lucky because I was in the 25%. But I wasn't happy, and I didn't feel at a gut level that it was safe,
Yes, right.
psychologically and mentally.
Yeah.
Because politics happen at work, and I kind of saw writings on the wall. I probably couldn't have lasted much longer.
Yeah.
And so I decided to make up my mind to become a consultant. And because I was able to get checks for my big company from China, from various Asian countries, I saw the process, I lived through the process, so I declare myself a China trade consultant.
And you were born in China.
And I was born in China.
That helps, I think.
I got my PhD. My field of study was China, so I was kind of a China nut.
Right, okay.
So I may as well recycle my nuttiness.
So that expertise wasn't what you got from the big company. You got different type of expertise from the big company. But the expertise that you were going to offer to people as a consulting
Oh yeah,
offering.
and not only that, to add to your point, one of the expertise that I had, which I never knew existed, was I was born into a family that ran a dry goods stores in Hong Kong.
Okay.
So I really didn't have a normal, typical family life in the sense that it was a store.
Yeah.
The store was open 364 days a year.
Wow.
We began at 9 in the morning. We closed the shop at 10. I spent my time after I returned from junior high, primary school, high school, to be with my mother in the store, helping out to sell to customers who walked in.
Sure.
So because of the 10 years, 12 years, 13 years of selling to thousands and thousands of customers in Hong Kong walking in,
Yes.
I turned myself into a good salesman without knowing it.
Excellent. That's a great
So
story.
the PhD from Chicago, from Michigan, taught me how to read, write, think, thank God. But the salesmanship,
Yes.
how to deal with crazy or very good people walking into the store, that was extremely valuable.
Right. Well, then, that's a great background. It leads us to a question we have from one of our viewers. Eric Lambert of Philadelphia asks, what are the best businesses to deal with in China, and what are the ones to stay away from? Sounds like you're the person that can answer that, or those questions. Best ones and worst ones.
I will use a very simple and one word as a guide: leverage. Let me explain what I mean by leverage. If you want to succeed in the Chinese market, especially selling, because that's my expertise, selling American made, whether they are products, whether they are services, know-how, technology, I therefore will have to know how to navigate, how to make sure that the Chinese will buy from us instead of just copy from us and dump us, and leverage means if a person or a business is able to understand what is his or the company's strengths. You have to understand what strengths you have in order to succeed.
In this case, this would be
you have leverage.
If Eric Lambert wants to do business in China and he's asking what are the best businesses to deal with, he's got to have that kind of leverage, that kind of knowledge.
Whatever business. Let me use a very specific example. In 1983, one of my first 3 clients was a scientific company here in Philadelphia. The company invented a scientific index to measure the capability of a scholar, like by creating a database made up of hundreds of thousands of articles from 7,000 top journals in all major foreign languages, including English, of course. And with that leverage, they have that leverage. There's no way, even given the most powerful Chinese organization, knowing how to a good copycat, even the Chinese government is not able to get all 7,000 publishers worldwide to give them the journals, to give them the right to publish. So that's leverage. In other words, they are king.
It's like
the company is king.
It's a unique niche.
Yeah, but you can't, it's not about money. Leverage in this case is not just about wealth. It's about people buying into you.
Well, it's about, we like to talk about early small businesses like that have some proprietary. Now, it may not be patentable, may not be registered or something, but it's that unique, that special.
You got it. And the key word is may not be
easily.
It may not be. People think they can copy you. Look, frankly, my customers in China always keep telling me, we're Chinese. Our ability to copy anything is beyond belief. They all believe that, but it's one thing to believe.
Right.
It's another thing.
That's a
whether
big
you can
generality.
Reverse engineer another Palm Beach show. I mean, nobody can reverse engineer you.
Absolutely.
Or
I'm
me.
special.
So we have leverage as ourselves.
Yes.
So it's a very simple word, but that's the only way to succeed.
Okay, so you're not naming. So if Mr.
doesn't
Lambert's looking
matter
for a
what
name of a
business.
business,
Right.
whether it's a publishing business
Right.
or a manufacturer of widgets,
Right.
you're not saying that's
Right.
beside the point.
Right. That's beside the point.
Could be anything, but
So the business to go in is a business that has leverage.
Mm-hmm.
The business to avoid is a business you don't have leverage in.
easy to duplicate, easy to copy, easy
Right.
to replicate.
Easy to replicate at a lower cost, you're shot.
Yeah. Give us an example of something that maybe a business, American business, thought they were had leverage, but found out the hard way they didn't.
Well, I've just given you the
publisher,
example of
the
the publisher,
publisher,
the
okay, with
scientific
7,000, okay.
database. Now, I have a very long-term client. Not going to mention name, but we are very successful. We're so successful that the Chinese Central Television actually sent out a person to try to interview me. Why is it that your client has been so successful? In the beginning, I said to myself, "Oh, publicity! You know, who doesn't want publicity,
Right,
right?
right.
I mean, fame."
Sure.
Then I thought more about the leverage. No, I'm not going to show up, because the moment I showed up, the moment people kind of know who we are, then you are really calling for unneeded and unnecessary and often focus. You don't want people to focus on you. It's just that you don't want thieves. You don't want you don't want the pirates to know that you are doing well. Am I making some sense?
Okay.
And that company is makes a particular component to allow power generation equipment to work very well.
Yeah.
We started going into China in 1984 with 0 sales, and now China not stop me is because this is too emotional an issue, because every single day in the past 30-something years, in addition to trying very hard to sell to Chinese customers, we also have to stop all of our customers from reverse engineering our products.
Right, sure.
But we have the leverage.
Yeah.
Now, then you can ask me what is our leverage. I am not going to tell you.
Right.
I am not going to tell you.
Good. Okay.
That's why I decline fame. And however, there's one more point I want to make use of this opportunity. I read of an article in the Atlantic magazine. There's a writer by the name of Benjamin Carson who wrote in the March issue of the Atlantic magazine an article titled "Why China Loves Trump." Now, I don't mean to bring in anything political, but in this long article, he understands the Chinese mind very well. Of course, he understands the Chinese mind because he also has talked to a number of high-level, high-power, very clever, very intellectual, very knowing Chinese people who analyze international trade. So I highly recommend the March issue of the Atlantic magazine.
Well, it sounds like a lot of this has to do with culture. A lot of aspects of the way the Chinese do things is different culturally than what the U.S. people do.
Or the British, or the Norwegians.
You have to understand those things.
Oh,
Very
yeah.
fascinating.
Very
Yeah,
important.
fascinating. Well, it's a topic we could talk about for quite some time. We do have a good guest
Yeah,
we'd
you
like
and I,
to
yeah,
get to.
right,
And with that, I'd like to introduce to our show Daniel Coppola,
Yes.
CPA of DLC Advisors,
Yes.
PC.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Welcome to the show, Dan.
Thank you.
So I understand you're a self-employed
Yes.
person also.
Yes, I am. I started out in corporate America. 1995 actually is when I began my journey in corporate America, and ran my way all the way through to as a controller, corporate controller, which I did for 8 years for a German subsidiary. We were a very successful company located in Jersey.
You're manufacturing things?
Well, we would import stainless steel sinks from Germany, actually. And then they would come to the U.S. and we would distribute them throughout the United States using 23 manufacturing sales representatives.
Wow, okay.
We were an organization that we were just booming. Like in 2000, we were approximately about 10 million in sales.
Yeah.
By 2008, we were at 76 million, strictly organic growth.
My goodness.
It was a fantastic learning experience as far as accounting. We were changing computer systems, accounting systems. We started out with something basic like QuickBooks, and next thing you know, we were running.
Small company stuff, yeah.
Right, and then we went to something more advanced like Exact or Progression, then ultimately to SAP. Unfortunately, in 2008, as I'm sure you all know, that's everything tanked, and the business unfortunately dropped in sales from 76 million, then was on target for 50 million. I was one of 5 senior managers, and unfortunately was a victim of the axe. And so, but in the same token, as I reflect back on that, it was a new opportunity. A chapter ended and a new one began.
Sure.
And that's when I started in public accounting and began my journey, which leads me to where I am today. So,
And I'm sure that you have ways to get your clients, and they go with you, and which brings into now the current thing of this tax cut. Tell me something. So what is going to change? I have not heard from my accountant yet, so I have no idea what's going on.
well, there's a lot of things that are going on. A lot of people are perplexed because there's a lot of moving parts to it. There's good things and bad things. Some of the good things that I'll just touch on, or I should say, let me shift. Well, the good thing is this. And people are excited. They're like, oh, the standard deduction for the individuals is going to $12,000, and if you're married, filing joint, that's $24,000. Well, that's great, but what they didn't tell you is, well, we also every year get exemptions. If you look at your tax return, you have these exemptions, approximately $4,000 a person. That's being eliminated. So what's going to ultimately happen is a lot of people that I believe are in the range of, say, salary-wise, $70,000 to $200,000, who currently itemize. That standard deduction, if they're married, filing joint, it's going to be a very close teeter-totter, if you will, to say, is it going to be, what's going to optimize my tax position?
So let me stop you. So
Sure.
you're saying that between 75,000 and let's say 250,000,
Right.
it's a nothing burger. Is that what you're saying? It's a nothing burger.
Well, not exactly saying that. What I'm saying is, what we all need to do today, and it's not only for the people in that salary range, but tax planning more than ever is going to have to become important. Today, one of the things you're seeing, a major shift is a lot of your CPAs are also becoming financial advisors. The reason why that is everything's becoming so intertwined with the tax law and the financial planning.
Then what about people making less than 75,000? Are they benefiting or are they not benefiting from the tax cut?
I believe that the people on the lower end salaries, they're going to pick up some money in their paycheck. The tax brackets in itself, they didn't change. There's still 7 tax brackets. But what they did do is they expanded them a little bit, each range. So as an example, the 10% range goes up $3,000 more. So as an example, I was just talking to a client the other day, and they were in a retired couple actually, and they were in a 25% tax bracket. Well, now they're in a 22% tax bracket because of the change in the law. Now, that's to their advantage, and then they were saying to me, well, next year, are we going to itemize? Are we going to use the standard deduction? Well, in their situation, every year they only have $20,000 in itemized deductions. So they're going to go with the standard deduction. They're going to pick up.
So then are you saying that the new tax cut law benefits people making less than $75,000 a year? Is that what you are saying?
In general, yes. Yes, I believe so.
So they should be happy.
Yes.
Okay.
And the more you make, the more challenges we have. Everything becomes more and more complex because there's multiple variables. One of the things that I'm doing this year as I meet my clients is I'm saying to them, okay, now this summer, here's what I want to do. Let's get together in July, August. You're going to bring your latest paycheck. We're going to project out for you what your income is going to be for that year based upon if you're going to get a bonus or not. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, now are we going to itemize or are we going to use the standard deduction? There's going to be techniques that you use now. Like as an example, charitable contributions. Since every year, you don't have, once you select the standard deduction, you do not have to use that every single year going forward. You can flip-flop back and forth. So what you could do as an example is push your charitable contributions to the following year. It's called bunching. to increase that deduction.
Like people were talking about real estate taxes around December 31st.
Right,
Real
try
estate
to-
taxes weren't going to be deductible over $10,000 going forward, et cetera. So
Right.
if you can pay another year's worth comfortably in 2017, get the write-off then.
Right, exactly. And, to your point, and if I could touch on something, one of the things that in the real estate industry, what people are going crazy about is, as an example, not only about the cap with the state and local taxes being, there's a cap now. So especially Pennsylvania, Jersey, New York, California, they're livid because they're paying $10,000 to $15,000 in real estate taxes alone,
Right.
and then some. But they're capped at $10,000, but then they still have their state and local taxes on their paycheck that they can't deduct. So
Yeah.
that's adversely impacting them.
But I also have been hearing that the new tax cut law benefits very wealthy people or big companies, because it's easier now for the big companies to siphon profits from overseas countries back to America, getting much of a less tax hit. I know you know what I'm talking about.
You're referring to the decrease with the, it's a C corporation, so predominantly all your publicly held companies here are C corporation structures.
Okay.
The tax rate dropped down to 21%. And if you really look at the law and you start to read about it, what you'll find is, I think Trump, one of his motivations is to try to get these companies to pay the expenses of the employees, to show the employees how important of an asset they are. And the reason why I say this as an example is, on the flip side, one of the things they eliminated on the Schedule A is the miscellaneous deductions, unreimbursed employee
Oh, right,
expenses.
right. Travel or
Travel,
meals.
travel, meals, your clothing, the tools, whatever it may be, mileage.
Uniforms.
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
Eliminate it. And the reason why, his logic, I believe, is that he's trying to get the companies to pick that up. But I was just reading something that it represents approximately like a $1.4 trillion tax cut, or savings, if you will, by eliminating that section alone.
My goodness.
So in essence, a lot of modifications that they made to the law, I think, are also per se a way to help with the deficit. It's concealed or window dressing tax increases, right? Because you're taking something away from somebody.
Wow.
Instead of me charging you more, I'm just taking some things away. I think it's all how things are presented.
Sounds like a pretty bad carnival ground,
well,
like
that's-
horror, house of horror,
Well, that's why it's important that you speak to your advisors.
I know. I
So,
agree.
but all this has to do with 2018. We don't have to. We're not going to face it
Yeah.
until 2019, but plan in 2018. Otherwise, you may have some surprises and
Right.
pleasant surprises.
But the key is people should have real jobs. Otherwise, if you lose your jobs, it doesn't matter. You have no income coming in. Doesn't matter whether you pay a lot or pay less
Right.
taxes.
And again, to your point, I think that self-employment, especially in this economy today and the uncertainty,
Right.
I got on the radio the other day. I heard this gentleman just graduated with a master's degree, sent out 600 resumes and got 3 hits.
wow.
Only hits. That doesn't mean
That
job
not interviews,
offers. Right.
just
Just
hits.
hits. Yeah.
So so hence the reason why today you have so many people that are saying, you know what can I do? What value can I add
Yeah.
to somebody else?
That's like $300 in postage alone.
Right.
Oh yeah.
About
well,
50 cents a letter.
I actually lived through. I lived through a similar episode in my life, like the person you have just mentioned. I used to send out hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of letters, so much so, each letter cost about $1, $1. So if I send 500, it's $500, which
Right.
for an individual, it's a lot of money.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I probably sent 15,000 over the
Wow.
years.
You're a good writer. Well, Dan, with so many challenges already for Americans to meet the ever-growing tuition rates from private schools to colleges, are there any investment vehicles that they should consider in an effort to assist them to meet such savings goals for their kids?
Well, it's funny you say that. This is something that's really popular, and a lot of people have been asking about it. is the 529 plans. It existed for quite some time already, and it's a savings vehicle that people are utilizing to put their kids through college.
Refresh for the audience how that works.
Well, basically, what you do, it's after-tax monies, and you're not getting a tax deduction to put monies into the fund. And when I say the fund, all states have different kinds of 529 savings plans.
Okay.
But this money grows tax-deferred, and when you utilize it, when your child goes away to college, you don't pay tax on those monies.
Okay.
Okay. Also, depending upon what state you're in, you could get a state tax deduction on your taxes. So, as an example, a lot of people, like I said, are saving for college. But most recently, there was a major modification that was made to it, and the modification is now those 529 plans can be used for from kindergarten through 12th grade and college. So, because a lot of people want to send their kids to private school today.
Yeah.
Well,
Can a grandparent do that too?
yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They're very liberal as to how you can set them up and how the monies can be used. Extremely flexible. It has the savings, like I said, on the state level. You're getting deductions. I think it's up to 30 states offer some type of deduction. Now, some are a full and some are only partial.
So how would somebody do that? They go online, get a form, something like that, 529, or
You-
they talk to you, or
You can talk to me. Absolutely.
Getting a
And-
form online doesn't mean anything.
Right.
You have to talk to somebody who knows what he or she is doing.
good point, good point.
So you speak to your advisor.
Right.
Okay.
They get you on point, and then there's multiple ways in which you can go about setting one up.
It's the more I listen to you, the more I feel nowadays very few people can have the expertise to do their own taxes.
Well, it's funny because someone just said to me the other day, well, are you afraid that you're going to lose your job? They're simplifying the tax code. I go, well, no, not really. I said, because it's not as simple as you think. You know?
No, it's not.
It's
simple
not
at
black and
all.
white.
No.
So, which for me is good, keeps me employed, and
sure.
you know. But you
Yeah,
have to stay on top of the law.
Absolutely.
You
Well,
know.
well, Dan, if somebody wanted to contact you and
Right.
DLC, how would they do that? Do you have a website or?
I do. It's DLCadvisors.com.
Okay.
Is probably the best way. There's a contact section on there, and just shoot me request for consultation.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And first consultation
That's
is
advisors with an S.
that's correct. DLCadvisors.com.
First consultation is
Free.
free. That's the word I wanted to hear. That's terrific.
Something is dear and near to my heart.
Yes.
And I want to hear your opinion,
Sure.
your experience. If you have to name one thing most important to people who are self-employed or thinking of becoming self-employed, what would be your advice? One thing,
One thing.
the most important that comes to mind.
Pick something that they love, and do it, because you're going to be spending a lot of time doing it.
I have to shake your hand.
Absolutely. Good answer. Good. Well, he knows the truth also.
Yeah, he knows.
Well,
I
Dan,
agree.
thanks for joining the show. Some good advice.
Thank you very much.
It sounds like a complex subject
Yeah.
and all, but you seem to be pretty on top of it.
Right.
That's wonderful.
Well, thank you.
So that wraps up our show. So thanks for joining us. And just remember that on this show, your money matters.